afternoon and welcome everyone. My name is Joslyn Young and I'm the CEO of the Surrey and White Rock Board of Trade, the region's leading voice for business and economic growth. And I want to thank you for attending today's event, Educating for Growth, Strengthening BC's Economy Through Talent Development, featuring Minister Jessie Sunner. Today we will explore how the strategic alignment of post-secondary education and workforce development serves as a critical engine for economic prosperity in Surrey and across British Columbia. This essential conversation will examine collaborative solutions to navigate shifting policies, ensuring our education system effectively transforms students into a skilled workforce that drives regional innovation and long-term financial stability. I'd like to begin in a good way by acknowledging that we are on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Kwantlen, Katsi, Kwantlen, Kakite, Semiahmoo, and Tsawwassen. As well, I acknowledge the Inuit and Métis Nations people who live and work on these territories. Today's event would not be possible without the support of our sponsors. Now, for those of you who do not know how we like to thank our sponsors, you're in for a little fun treat, but you do have to put your knife and fork down for a minute because it's called the one clap method. So you need your two hands ready to go. The giggles are the ones that know. They're like, this is fun. Okay, so what I'm going to do is say the category and name of the sponsor, and then you'll do one clap in unison. This is a test of your motor skills. Okay, so are you ready? Okay, our presenting sponsors, Invest Vancouver. Okay, pretty good, but we're working on it. Okay, and Kwantlen Polytechnic University. Oh, much better. Okay, we're listening. Our community sponsor, Western Community College. Okay, and our pillar partners, Focus College. And the Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance Plan by SNF Group Benefits. I didn't fool you. Usually I get away with that one. You're ready. Look at you, James. You're like, she's not going to get me. I've got this. SFU has got things handled, yes. Now, please help me welcome some special guests in the audience. I want you to stand as I call your name so everyone knows where you are. And again, we'll do the one clap method. But this one is tricky because we have some long titles. So it's a test, really, of if you know who's in the room. So first, Jessie Sunner, Minister of Post-Secondary Education and Future Skills of BC and MLA for Surrey Noon. They're not listening. I thought we were at a post-secondary education event. I know you want to do a big round of applause, but this is a test. Okay. Next, we have, is she here? Amna Shah? She's taking a call. Let's announce her anyway. Amna Shah, Parliamentary Secretary for Anti-Racism Initiatives and Mental Health Addictions, and MLA for Surrey City Centre. Oh, good. Gary Begg, Parliamentary Secretary for Surrey Infrastructure and MLA for Surrey Guildford. And His Worship Dan Rumi, Mayor for the City of Maple Ridge, member of Invest Vancouver Management Board, and Director for the Metro Vancouver Regional District Board. I cannot fool you guys. This is fun for me. This is how I entertain myself. So I try to do a little worse, okay? And next we have City of Surrey Councillors Linda Annis and Mike Bose. Okay, thank you for attending, everyone. We also have some board of directors in the audience. These are my bosses. So these are the folks, after I say their name and you know where they are, you can go and tell them what a great job the Surrey and White Rock Board of Trade staff are doing, okay? So we have Baljit Dhaliwal, our immediate past chair, and from Strava College. Good. We also have Sasha Ramnarine, Remedios and Company. And we have Gurjinder Burji, Signature Real Estate. Okay. I also have one of our board governors here. These are individuals who have previously served as our board chair. Where's Mr. James Stewart? There he is. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you, everyone. Now, one big round of applause. We can get it out of our system. Okay, right on. I think maybe I had a secret desire to be a conductor, maybe somewhere. I don't know. So the Surrey and White Rock Board of Trade, for those of you that don't know, is an independent nonprofit organization and serves as the concierge of connections for our business communities, delivering a diversified service portfolio of business development, support for international trade, government advocacy, and workforce development. Essentially, we help businesses grow and succeed. That's what we live for. We connect people, we offer vital resources, and actively push for policies that ensure Surrey and White Rock communities continue to be the leading cities to live, work, and invest. We are proud to be a powerful, unifying voice for businesses of all sizes and sectors across the region. Now, it's my pleasure to welcome Dan Rumi, Mayor of Maple Ridge, member of the Invest Vancouver Management Board, where we sit on that together, and Director for the Metro Vancouver Regional District Board, to introduce our keynote speaker this afternoon. Come on up, Mayor.
Mine's is not going to be as fun as that, but I brought my own props right here, in case you all wanted to know. Maple Ridge, I like to support where I live, work, and play. Thank you, Joslyn, for the introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here today with you all. Dan Rumi, Board Director at Metro Vancouver, member of the Invest Vancouver Management Board, and Mayor of the City of Maple Ridge. I would also like to acknowledge that the region's residents live, work, and learn on the shared territories of many Indigenous peoples, including 10 local First Nations. We respect the diverse and distinct histories, languages, and cultures of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, which collectively enrich our lives and the region. Invest Vancouver is the region's economic development service, focused on attracting foreign direct investment and helping create high-quality jobs for our residents to support long-term economic growth. Our work builds on the region's key strengths, in particular, talent, livability, and the innovation ecosystem. Access to talent is one of the top factors in a business's decision about where to invest and critical to our region's long-term competitiveness. Today, one of the biggest challenges is not a lack of talent, but rather a lack of alignment between talent and opportunity. And if I could take a moment, my previous world, when I was a member of Parliament, I was also the chair of the Industry, Science, and Tech Committee. And through the work that I did there, it was very interesting to see that when we brought in academia, they had one version of the story. And then when we brought in business, they had a completely different version. So we played around with that, and we got them in the room together. And that's where the magic started to happen. That's where you saw, well, there was not a lot of alignment. So there was opportunity to create that alignment. And from that, a lot of good things came up, such as the digital supercluster that was awarded in the Lower Mainland. Employers are still struggling to find job-ready candidates, while many people are struggling to find their way in their careers. That's why, as the region grows, post-secondary and skills training must grow with it. This is already happening here in Surrey. Simon Fraser University opened its Smart Manufacturing Hub in 2023 at the Surrey campus, the first of its kind in Western Canada. And I'm seeing a thumbs up there, so let's get a thumbs up for that. There you go. SFU Surrey is also where the provincial government will establish BC's second medical school, with the first cohort beginning their studies this fall. That's exciting to hear and see. So congratulations on that. As the region's fastest growing city, Surrey's ability to expand training capacity is central to sustaining a strong and competitive region. The Metro Vancouver region is Canada's third largest economy, home to more than 3 million residents and contributing $254 billion in GDP, over 60% of the province's total. Our post-secondary, yeah, that's a clap moment. Our post-secondary institutions are constantly producing highly skilled talent. But at the same time, we are navigating significant shifts in international student policy and rapidly evolving labor market needs. This is putting pressure on workforce pipelines and training systems, with wide-reaching impacts on institutional capacity and program delivery. Increasingly, the challenge is not just about the supply of talent, but also about how we sell our systems are aligned to where jobs are today. and where those jobs are going. As the region continues to grow as a hub for innovation, closing the gap between talent and opportunity is critical to remain competitive and attract high-quality jobs. Invest Vancouver is uniquely positioned to lead this work as a regional convener. Invest Vancouver combines the unique strengths of over 23 member jurisdictions to compete on the global stage as one region. Invest Vancouver plays a central role in bringing together industry leaders, post-secondary institutions, employers, and workforce partners from across the region to align shared priorities and strengthen key industries. This positions us to coordinate on ways to address growing demand for talent. And we are already making strides. Last year, Invest Vancouver launched an employer-led regional talent accelerator called Invest Talent, with support from the Future Skills Center. Invest Vancouver's role is not to deliver the training, but rather to translate employer demand into coordinated action across the system, from training providers to workforce organizations. At the core of this model are skills needs forums, structured, repeatable sessions where employers define real-time skills and partners co-design responses together. Through the pilot, we tested two distinct models. In life sciences, we focused on supporting a scale-up scenario where a local medtech company, to better understand how talent pipelines can respond to rapid growth and the broader economic impact of scaling firms in our region. In cybersecurity, we took a cross-sector approach, recognizing that cyber talent is not confined to one industry, but is critical to the resilience, security, and competitiveness of organizations across our economy. Across both models, we engaged more than 80 employers and trained 136 participants, with 87% of participants coming from equity-deserving groups. We exceeded our targets with over 95% of participants reporting that the training was relevant and valuable. No single organization can solve this challenge alone, and that's where the alignment part comes in. We all have to work together. It requires ongoing structured collaboration grounded in employer demand, and it requires a convener like Invest Vancouver to bring together employers, post-secondary institutions, and workforce partners across the region. As we continue this work in 2026, we have an opportunity to build a repeatable model that can respond to the changing labor market needs in real time. This work is deeply aligned with the province's leadership in post-secondary education and future skills and the 2026 services plans, as well as the Look West strategy. With that in mind, I'm pleased to introduce our keynote speaker this afternoon, a former human rights lawyer and trade unionist for the Hospital Employees Union. She was first elected MLA for Surrey Newton in 2024 and has previously served as a parliamentary secretary for Anti-Racism Initiative. Today, she is BC's Minister of Post-Secondary Education and Future Skills. So, having said that, everyone please join me in welcoming the Honourable Jessie Sunner. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Everyone looks a little quiet. I think the food is settling in here. Hopefully I don't put you to sleep, but thank you, Mayor Rumi, for the very warm introduction, and thank you, Joslyn, for getting us started off in a really good way. I also want to acknowledge that we are gathered today on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish peoples, and I'm grateful that we're able to live, work, and play from all the different lands that we've come from right here in Surrey and across White Rock as well. I want to thank the Surrey and White Rock Board of Trade for inviting me to speak to you about the work that our government is doing to support workforce development across our province, and specifically here in Surrey as well. And I'm honored to be joined by so many talented leaders in the room today from across local government, industry, nonprofits, and the post-secondary sector, so that we can work together to explore the workforce development needs and opportunities through a skills training lens. I'd like to thank my colleagues who are here with us today, or who are always, Gary Begg and Amna Shah, local MLAs who are always advocating for the needs of our communities as well. And I want to make sure that these are just one of many conversations where we come together to look at the kind of collaboration that we can achieve together and build a stronger and more inclusive workforce. Because this isn't something that any one of us or any one sector can do alone. As we all know, Surrey is one of the fastest growing communities in BC, and I would say actually across our country. And that growth is creating both incredible opportunity, but also a real pressure on our communities as well as our workforces. And we need to work together to make sure that we are building a strong, resilient, inclusive workforce for our province for today, but for well into the future as well. Many of you in this room today are doing this work already, and your commitment is outstanding. Surrey is a hub for talent development, and that's what today's conversation is really about. I'm in a unique position where I have the opportunity to work with communities, post-secondary institutions, training providers, businesses, workers, and other partners to ensure that we are guiding the prosperity of our province. We are equipping people with the skills that they need to build meaningful, high-paying careers in this rapidly evolving world. We are also all aware that young people are not just the future, they are the present. And they are entering the workforce at a moment of immense change, and we really need to ensure that they have a fair shot. We hear from young people regularly, and I hear from them regularly, and they tell me that they want to make sure that they are able to have more than a job. They want to have stability, they want to have dignity, and they want to have the ability to build a life in the communities that they call home. Young people that grew up in our communities have a dream, and many of those dreams are just to have even the level of a life that their parents were able to build for them when they came here. They've lived a life where they've been told if you work hard, you can get ahead, and that is what we want to make sure that that dream stays alive and that they're able to work hard, get an education, get ahead, and build a life right in the communities where they are living, and that they have the opportunities that their parents had and even beyond those. We also speak with employers, and they say that they need people with the right skills, supported by the systems that set them up to thrive and succeed. And as minister, I have the privilege, but also the immense responsibility of growing our skilled workforce and ensuring that British Columbians in every single corner of our province have access to the education and training that they need, and that it is affordable, it is accessible, and it's relevant to the changing needs of our economy. If we're going to meet BC's current and future workforce needs, we must continue to build bridges, not only between young people and opportunity, but between government, education, industry, and communities. I have a lot of optimism about the future, and the greatest competitive advantage that we have right here in BC is our people. The amazing, highly talented people in Surrey and across our province are working to support their families and build our economy, which is why our government remains focused on investing in people and helping them gain the skills and talents that they need in order to succeed. And we have incredible post-secondary partners in our own backyard, many of whom are in this room today, including SFU with a medical school on the way, with Kwantlen Polytechnic University, who is striking the right balance between innovation and in-demand training to support our economic and workforce needs as Surrey continues to grow and evolve into the future. Building economic resilience is one of our government's central priorities. The strength of BC's future workforce will determine the resilience of our communities and of our economy. We're living in truly transformational times with global uncertainty, shifting labor markets, and the rapidly changing technological advances that we're seeing. And the demand for skilled talent continues to grow. So now is not the time to be slowing down. We need to continue to build momentum and be at the cutting edge of these changes. To meet this very moment, our government is focused on creating real opportunities for people to gain the skills and pathways they need to succeed today and into the future. And I'm excited to talk about some of those opportunities and pathways, starting with our government's new Look West Jobs and Prosperity Strategy. Over the next decade, BC is expected to see almost 1 million job opportunities. And Look West is a targeted strategy to grow BC's workforce and help people seize opportunities in emerging and expanding sectors while positioning British Columbia to be the economic engine of Canada. Now, I see the sector representation in this room is diverse, but I also understand that there's a strong delegation of folks who work in technology, manufacturing, utilities, and the trades. So let me get into Look West a little deeper, starting with how our government is supporting the development of the skilled trades workforce. BC's labour market outlook predicts about 95,000 job openings in the skilled trades over the next 10 years. With 40% of the federal government's priority projects taking place right here in our province in every corner of BC, and $88 billion in proposed major provincial projects on track to move forward, the demand for skilled workers is expected to rise and could not be greater than any other moment that we've seen. Look West positions BC to continue to lead the country in job creation while attracting new investment and growing key sectors such as technology, life sciences, maritime, construction, and aerospace. It is imperative that training in these sectors is available to the people who want them, and that British Columbians are first in line for the opportunities that these projects will create. Here in Surrey, with projects like the Surrey Langley SkyTrain, the new hospital and cancer center, the new medical school, the demand for skilled trades isn't something that's theoretical or not happening right here. It's happening right in our own communities. And we know that the demand for skilled workers is only going to increase, which is why we must move quickly to ensure that people can access the training and opportunities they need to become skilled tradespeople. And that's what we're doing through the Look West strategy and with our historic $241 million investment in the trades over the next 3 years. This work is focused on three key things. First, it's about expanding access. We're creating thousands of new trading seats with up to 5,000 new trades training seats in this upcoming year alone, so more people can get into the programs that they want when they're ready versus having to wait on wait lists for a number of years, as we've heard from institutions across our province. Second, this is about reducing barriers. We're increasing funding to union and post-secondary training providers so that they can keep up with the rising costs and deliver high-quality instruction, get the high-quality equipment they need, and the supports that they need for apprentices. We have been woefully underserving that section without an investment in the last 20 years, and this will allow institutions to open up seats and build up their infrastructure so we can continue to fill the needs that we have in the skilled trades. Third, this is about connecting people to real opportunities. Through initiatives like the Workforce Readiness Initiative, we're working directly with employers to ensure training aligns with actual job openings and the needs that they see today, as well as those that are upcoming in high priority sectors. What this means in practice is simple. More people get trained, they have faster pathways into the workforce, and a stronger pipeline of talent for employers. And ultimately, it means that British Columbians are able to access good-paying, family-supporting jobs while we continue to grow a stronger and more resilient economy across our province and country. So in addition to the trades training investments that we've made, I know that the other major sector that's on people's minds right now is healthcare. And we know that we need to continue to build up our healthcare workforce to support quality, appropriate healthcare for people in a timely way across our province, and especially in growing communities like right here in Surrey. That's why we are training more healthcare workers, including nurses, nurse practitioners, paramedics, and allied health professionals, so everyone in BC has access to the care that they need when and where they need it. And of course, we are training more doctors, and that is one of our #1 priorities. Happily, we're only a few months away from welcoming the first cohort of future doctors to the School of Medicine at Simon Fraser University, right here in our own backyards of Surrey. I'm also thrilled because SFU's curriculum will join other schools like McMaster University and the University of Calgary by offering a 3-year medical education program. This program mirrors the core content found in 4-year programs, but accelerates completion by operating through the summer. Under this curriculum, medical students will be able to graduate 1 year sooner, which means BC's future doctors will enter the workforce faster with more hands-on experience than conventional programs. This curriculum also features earlier and continuous clinical learning, which starts in your first year of studies, where in other programs it may start later on. And this increases over the course of the program, offering students early experience into primary care community settings. And we know this is important because this will bring care online in our communities faster. It will also ensure that these students are able to connect with their communities sooner so that they, when they're ready to graduate, are connected to your communities and may even stay right here in our backyards. So this August cohort is on track to graduate with a medical degree and enter residency training as soon as 2029. And the province is supporting the new medical school through a $33 million investment in capital funding for the interim space that the students will be using, along with $30 million in ongoing operational funding, while we build the permanent SFU medical school space just across the street with a capital investment of over $450 million. When it's completed, that permanent space will be right across the street, as I said, right next to Surrey Central SkyTrain Station. And this is a historic moment. As someone who grew up right here in Surrey, I know what this means for our community. And this is the first medical school to open in Western Canada in almost 60 years. So it's not something to be taken lightly. It's a huge accomplishment. Yeah. And we're very excited for how this new school and how doctors that are trained here will be able to provide care for Surrey, White Rock, and communities across our province, making healthcare better and more accessible for all of our communities. Lastly, I want to make sure we talk about the challenges that are also before us, which include the challenges that our post-secondary institutions are facing right now when it comes to financial challenges. These are exacerbated by a number of things, including global inflation, including domestic enrollment being stagnant or declining across our province, but largely due to the unilateral cuts that the federal government made when it came to international study permits and the lack of time that institutions had to prepare for those changes. We understand these challenges and continue to support BC's post-secondary institutions as they manage their operations and budgets during these financially challenging times. But we also know that education is the foundation of opportunity, and that's why sector sustainability is my primary focus in this mandate. My ministry launched an independent review to provide a clear path for stabilizing institutions in the short term while ensuring that the sector is financially sustainable and resilient over the long term, while meeting the needs of our labor markets as they are today and as they will be into the future. This review took a holistic approach that includes broad and extensive consultation with administration, staff, students, faculty, and partner groups across our communities. And this holistic approach that this review took looked at a broad and extensive way of how we can explore all aspects of the sector, not just limited to one or two things that may fix issues in the short term, but how do we look at our academic programming? How do we look at our operations, our administration, our governance? What's working in the sector, what isn't? And how do we make sure that it continues to work for students well in the future and generations to come? We intend to release this report and its recommendations publicly, along with government's next steps, because it's really important that as we receive this report, which we have now, we are able to review it and not only come out with recommendations that have come out of the independent review, but what is our government's plan to enable these recommendations that we're moving forward on and ensuring that we are doing so in collaboration with the sector. So ultimately, the goal of this is to ensure that our public post-secondary system is sustainable, it's responsive to the workforce needs, and it's well positioned to continue to support British Columbians and the province's economy. British Columbia has always been a place of bold ideas, natural strengths, and diverse people coming together from every corner of the world to live right here and shape our future together. With our geography, our resourcefulness, and our diverse, skilled workforce, BC has what it takes to grow our economy while protecting the things that people care about and rely on every single day. And today, as the world around us shifts faster than ever, and global markets are unpredictable, and new industries are emerging, and competition for talent is intensifying, in these moments, waiting is not an option. British Columbia is choosing to lead with purpose, with confidence, and with a clear plan of action. Building a brighter future with more opportunities so everyone in BC can thrive. That is at the heart of every action that our government is taking. I look forward to your questions and our discussion about how we can continue to build a stronger, more prosperous British Columbia for everyone and do so together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was great. I was taking a lot of notes, so we'll see if I can still read my own questions. We do have a microphone in the middle here for audience questions. I will get us started, and then I'll invite you to come to the microphone if you have questions. When you do come up with your questions, a reminder to introduce yourself, your name, your organization, and we keep our questions brief and respectful, and we only get one question, and then we go to the back of the line. And people who've been here before know I run a tight ship. Okay, great. So I like to start off my conversations with our special guests by asking them a question that helps us get to know them a little bit as a person. So Minister, what is your origin story? How did you get to be where you are today and the person that you are?
Thank you, Joslyn. When I say, how did I get here? I don't know. Life somehow brings us here. But I grew up right here in this community of Surrey. I went to elementary school, high school. I went to university in my backyard at SFU Surrey there. And I grew up in a family. My parents moved here, came as immigrants to give their children a better life, and they did exactly that. And my family, when I talk about my ministry, my family relates into it a lot. My father was a skilled tradesperson. He built our home. He worked 12 to 16 hours a day to give his kids a life that we were able to really benefit from. And so I know what role skilled trades has in building good lives and good careers right here in our communities. And from that, from a young age, I was always questioning, why does this person get this, and why does this person have this, and why are the differences in community? And growing up in Surrey, there was, oh, you're from Surrey. And I knew in my mind that being from Surrey was a strength and not a weakness. And so the ability to be able to finish my undergraduate, go to law school in Alberta nonetheless, and show that, yes, I'm from Surrey and I'm sitting at the very same tables that you're sitting at, and I'm having the same conversations, and I'm, bringing forward things in a different perspective. I found it to be very meaningful, and I started to really champion that through. And I'm so grateful even now that through all of that work, I went into the human rights world and got to really defend. I always said I got to do work that I was lucky to get paid for, that I would have done for free, which was just advocating for communities that wouldn't have an advocate without having that voice there. And as I did that work, I had no intention of coming into politics, as I don't know many people often do. But it was that kind of advocacy work where we were doing it in that point for healthcare workers, and saying, how can we take this to the next level? And if you're doing this advocacy work, how can you take your voice to a place where it can even have a greater impact? And so after, I think, the 4th or 5th time of being nudged, I said, okay, I'll do it. And I'll run. And I'm so grateful, because I really, truly believe that at every table that decisions are made, we need to make sure we have people of all backgrounds, different ages, where they come from, because what we take as our life experience to be just the norm is not the norm. Just speaking from your life experience can bring such a diverse perspective to tables, and I've seen minds change and people realize that they hadn't even thought of certain things because they'd never lived that life. So I would just encourage people to recognize what the value of your voice is at every table that you're at, and that if you're at a table where everyone doesn't look like you or doesn't represent your views, it's actually even more important that you're there to make sure we get those diverse perspectives. So all that to say, just a young girl from Surrey that found her way here somehow.
And here she is, in the hot seat. Okay, so Surrey is one of the fastest growing communities. I was at an event last night with several ambassadors from Ottawa, from the European Union, and I do not waste time in telling them how great the Surrey and White Rock region is. So how does the province view Surrey's role in BC's long-term workforce and talent development strategy? Because we obviously have the youngest workforce here. We've got the youngest people. This is really where it's going to be happening. So how does the province view our contribution?
Absolutely. We all know this, and as does our province, that Surrey is the fastest growing community that we have, and the young people that are here are the future of our workforce. So looking at initiatives like our Look West Jobs and Prosperity strategy, at the key of that are sectors where we need young people to be prospering. So when we talk about the skilled trades, said we have almost 100,000 job openings coming in the next 10 years, many of which are right here in our region. I think often when we talk about major projects, we can think of areas like the Northeast, or you'd have to leave. A lot of those jobs are right here. When, I visited campuses, I visited the Kwantlen campus in Cloverdale, and right across the street, we can see the new the new hospital and cancer center being built, and seeing individuals being trained in the trades, going across the street to go get their work experience and to get their apprenticeship. Like, that is special. And I think we have so many opportunities in our own area in terms of the SkyTrain being built, the medical school being built, that we would not be able to do without skilled workforce. And I think that's why, in a time when there has been such a, we know the budgetary pressures that are on our province, despite that, we were able to get a historic investment into the trades of $241 million, is in the recognition that of all of the dollars we want to attract here to BC, we have to have the skilled workforce. And I think Surrey is so well placed in not just in the trades, but in so many of the areas that are outlined in Look West, everything from life sciences, clean tech, AI. In all those areas, our institutions are our partners as we really position students to have the skills that they need for the jobs of tomorrow. And I think one thing that's really important is, and why we are focusing on the trades, is we know that people want to be able to build a good life right here. And I talked about it a bit in my opening, but so many of us come here from so many different parts of the world. Our parents came here, gave things up to build a good life, and the story was, you work hard, you get an education, and then you also will be able to have the prosperous life here that we did. And I think young people are getting a bit disenfranchised from that, just with the cost of living. And I think what's really important is that we as a government are creating those job opportunities to say, you also will get to have that life. Here are all these pathways. Once you enter, you have a job waiting for you on the other end, a job that is going to allow you to support your families, live in the communities where you were raised, and also get ahead just the way previous generations did.
Which occupations or industries do you think, does government think will be facing the greatest workforce pressures, especially with the incoming AI, everything that's so uncertain on those job fronts, really? People are asking themselves, is this job going to exist? Where should I go? What should I train in? And I think for young people, this is a really challenging question. And so my question would be, how should both government and post-secondary respond to this, and collaboratively?
Absolutely. So in terms of industries, again, I'll talk about the skilled trades. I think that's something that's very difficult for AI to come in and take on when it's hands-on. These are things that we know are going to exist. We're going to need people here. So that is why, not just provincially, but federally, we're seeing a true investment into the skilled trades. So I would say that is definitely an area that is really going to be able to prosper. The other is healthcare. We know that the needs in our healthcare workforce are so significant. This is why we are not only building the medical school and training doctors and increasing our seats for nurse practitioners and allied healthcare, but also doing major recruitment to have people come here because of the needs. But in terms of those fears that we have about, I think first off, we are a bit off from losing that right away. But what, as institutions and industry, we need, and government, we need to do now is collaborate right now to see where do we see those gaps. And I think, people raise things about areas like my own profession in the legal space. I think that's a question of what does legal education look like, and what is the role of AI in that, and how do we do it ethically? I think that is somewhere where we can see pressures, but these are things that I think we need to make sure we're working on together to say, okay, where are things where AI may step in, but it won't take over the entire, I see the jobs changing. And what institutions will be able to do, and what we're so proud to support, is things like micro-credentials, things that will allow individuals that have degrees to say, I can now take this micro-credential to specify into an area that allows me to be job ready for whatever the changes and challenges are that are coming up as AI evolves. But I truly do believe that as AI comes in and we see certain careers or jobs being affected, that new ones will come online. And the best thing we can do for the next generation is train them in how to utilize AI, how to make sure that they're doing so ethically, and to build in this training, not in a horizontal way of here's a course you take in AI, but how is it built into all of the courses that we are taking and all of the training that students are getting as they get ready for the workforce.
Thank you. So your ministry has acknowledged that many institutions are facing significant financial pressures. I think that's really a hot topic here in Surrey. We are a college town, university town with so many of the universities, both public and private here. And so what are you hearing most, what are the top 3 things you're hearing from the universities and colleges across BC right now regarding this?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. This is a pressure that we're seeing across our sector, and it was kind of, I equate it to a train. It was a train that was coming. We saw that challenges were coming, but it was fast-tracked when the federal government made this change to the international study permits without any kind of consultation with the province or with institutions or allowing them any time to prepare for the changes that were coming. So we're really seeing significant financial challenges across our sector. And this was something that as I came in was, the number one thing that I wanted to make sure we're able to address, and to make sure that the decisions we're making for institutions are making are not just what's best for the one institution, but what's best for the sector moving forward. And I can say that we've had a lot of conversations across our public sector and had, a wonderful partnership to say we need to collaborate and we need to do it now, because the crisis that we're seeing or the issues that we're seeing were at our doorstep. And this review has allowed us to really meet with all sector partners, and this again is for the public sector. And I've had the opportunity to go to the north, to go to the Kootenays, to go all over the island, all over the Lower Mainland, to hear directly from these individuals. And I think the few things that I would hear that keep coming up is obviously a concern that as we deal with finances, that we're not reducing access to education across our province. And that is something that we take really seriously, because whether you live in the Lower Mainland, where we have a number of institutions, or you live in rural and remote communities, you should have the same access and ability to access post-secondary education and get the education in the areas that you need. And that is a priority for us. The other is, where are we going? What is the roadmap? And for me, I know there's difficult decisions being made, but we want to make sure that at the end of it, we're in a place where we are a sector that works together, that we can reduce duplication, and that we're not doing things in a way just because we can, because those are income generators. But how does a sector, like if a student wakes up tomorrow and says, I want to, do a program in something very specialized, they know where to go, because they know that is the center in our province where they can get the best education in that specific area. So I think that collaboration piece, and institutions collaborate all the time, and I'm very grateful for that. But I think at the moment we're in right now, it's another level of that. And I think people are coming to us with something that's not a concern, but they're raising to us, please include us in these conversations, because we want to help make sure that we are setting the best path forward for the sector. And also, I think the big thing is, what are the jobs of tomorrow? How are we training students for making sure that the degree they get tomorrow isn't already one that doesn't have any jobs in it as they enter the workforce? So working with institutions to say, how do we continue to stay nimble? How do we continue to upskill workers that might be in industries that are seeing changes or seeing reductions? How do we upskill them so they can continue to use the skill sets that they have in new areas? So there's a lot going in the sector, but I really do want to truly say I thank the sector for the partnership, and the hard work is still ahead of us as we get this review and as we look at the recommendations and work to get to that accessible, affordable, relevant education in every corner of our province. We can only do that with the help of everyone in this room and everyone in our sector.
Thank you. So I'll open up the microphone for questions. Yes, sir, please introduce yourself and where you're from and ask your question.
Hi, Jeff Sobudsky from BCIT, and I'm also privileged to be on the management board of Invest Vancouver, which is a little bit relevant today. Minister, thank you very much for your comments. I'm particularly pleased with with the remarks around skilled trades, obviously, as coming from BCIT. And just want to thank you and your government for the recent announcements around the investment in skilled trades. They really are generational. They're going to make a big difference. And so I thank you for that. We've recently also heard announcements coming from the federal government around skilled trades investments. And you made mention of previous announcements around international students and the lack of consultation related to that. So I would hazard that there perhaps hasn't been a great deal of dialogue potentially between the feds and the province as yet around those announcements. Those announcements are great because they're going to invest in students.
We have to get to the question.
Yeah, just going to invest in students and getting opportunities for students to get into the trades. But the reality is that if it does create that bump in demand, what that means is there are going to be capacity issues. So what I would ask you is, what are your thoughts about that? And are there ways that we as a post-secondary sector can work with you to help shape where that $6 billion flows? Certainly to students, but also in helping to build capacity in the province to make sure that those seats are available to the students who want to get into the trade. So your thoughts on that, thanks.
Thank you, Jeff, and absolutely. And I'd just like to say, before the federal announcement came in, we led with ours because, you know, maybe they follow us. But our investment into the skilled trades is really about the pressures we were seeing in the system. So to prevent exactly what you're saying in terms of a bottleneck. If a student tomorrow says, I want to get into the skilled trades, they were seeing wait lists of up to 3 years at some institutions, and that's what we can't afford. So our investment, what it does is open up those seats, open up those the ability of institutions to provide more seats because they're getting a lift in their base funding, and it actually works quite well with what the federal government has done. There wasn't consultation there, I will say, but I think what the federal government's focus is on is attracting people into the trades, and then as they get into the apprenticeship program, being able to provide them financial supports to carry out those bits. So the key piece, though, to get between I want to get into the trades and I'm an apprentice now is the training. So without the provincial government's investment in opening up to 5,000 new seats in this year, we wouldn't be able to meet the moment that the federal government is interested in meeting. So I think we are in consultation with them now and having conversations, but we need to make sure that we're working together on this, where we could start to see wait lists or we start to see ability of federal government to support maybe in capital infrastructure that institutions need that our funding isn't touching on that. We are making sure that we're meeting those moments because there is no point of having all of this money come out if you cannot get through, you know, you're going to create a bottleneck in the process and we're not actually having skilled tradespeople be able to enter the workforce as quickly as we want. So we'll continue to have those conversations, but I think it's really important, and I was saying that to tables above that. There's many individuals in this room that also are doing advocacy at a federal level, and the more we can do together between institutions and the province and even local governments to align our messaging, the more likely we are to draw dollars, federal dollars here, but also for our message to get through to the federal government of that level of consultation we need.
Thanks, Minister. James Bendigo, University of Fraser Valley, another region of the province where we're seeing a large population growth of young people as well. And I guess my question is around the message for young people. And, you know, thanks you for sharing your story with us today, because I think you are a shining example of the value proposition of a post-secondary education. And you're so ideally positioned to be the leader in our province to support and be an advocate for post-secondary education. And my question to you is given that a lot of young people are questioning the value of a post-secondary education, we're seeing transition rates that have been declining over the past 10 years from the K-12 system into post-secondary. What's your message to young people around the value of a post-secondary education and what it will mean to them and their communities?
Thank you so much. So just going back to my message, I grew up in a household where I knew what the value of post-secondary education was. It wasn't really a choice to do it. It was kind of built into our fabric, and it's the one thing that you can get in your life that no one can take away from you. And that when there are changes in the markets, there are things that are happening, you can always pivot within education, and that was something. But I do think that message was changing, and I think one thing that I would say to young people is with the changes that are happening with AI, and we're going to see a change in maybe some of the lower skilled work opportunities that are available, that post-secondary education will be crucial for over 90% of the type of careers that are going to come, that are already here, that will last through that. A post-secondary education will be crucial. And the ability to navigate the spaces of using AI, using it ethically, knowing how to utilize it in different areas, a post-secondary education will be key to that. So I think, you know, we've seen those dips and things throughout generations, but right now is a moment where I would say the value of an education, whether you are going to post-secondary for a degree, a diploma, for skilled trades, is high, and it is what is going to get you the values you need to build those good careers in your communities and be able to get those good paying jobs that will allow you to build your own families in our communities.
I grew up in the same household. I didn't know there was an option. Did anyone here get told there was an option? No. You go. Please go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you, Minister Sunner, for your comments. I'm Alicia Main. I'm the AVP of Innovation at Simon Fraser University, and super proud that you're amongst your alma maters is Simon Fraser University. My question is building on your last answer about the changing workforce needs, about the impact of AI and how that's affecting what opportunities are there for our graduates that are going into their first job. And, you know, yes, they need to understand AI, but they also need sector-specific experience for those companies to want to hire them. And so my question to you is, you spoke about apprenticeships and about work-integrated learning. You know, what role do you see the province has to support co-op programs, the scaling of those across our post-secondary institutions, or apprenticeships or internships? Like, the mechanisms of that, because the federal government doesn't support that. And to scale that, I could see that being a useful way to try to meet some of that gap that you're talking about, especially with the changing workforce requirements.
Thank you so much for your question. I think the government has a role to play in that, absolutely, and this is something that our government supports. We have been able to support, for example, through MyTax, over 10,000 placements with students in companies, local companies that are working in AI and quantum and life sciences with a over $150 million investment. And I saw those opportunities firsthand. I've been able to visit, and what that does is, one, gives students the ability to have work experience, that whole chicken and egg of you need work experience to get a job, but you can't get a job because you don't have work experience. It builds that, but it also helps invest in our local companies that are doing amazing work when it comes to AI, quantum, life sciences, homegrown talent that we want to keep right here and not lose to other countries, that we're able to support them, bring workers in, students to work in these companies, and have them building some of the most advanced technological things that we're seeing across our province. It's absolutely incredible. And I think the other role that cannot be taken for granted is the role that industry has to play with post-secondary institutions. And actually, Mayor touched on it a little bit about getting everyone into the same room together. But I've experienced the same thing. I've been touring around the province, and we've been doing some of these round tables. And in that, we would bring together the Chamber of Commerce of a certain city, as well as the institutions. And hearing them speak to each other, sometimes I was like, have you never been in the same room together? Because it would be, for example, it'll say, an employer would say, we're more than happy to take on more apprentices in this specific area. I think in this example, it was like specific forestry kind of tech area that they were doing. We'll take on more than we can even really afford, because we want to train them here and keep them here. And the institutions, that was their first time hearing that, and saying, we are more than happy to create these programs if we know that we have your partnership to support it. We can't train them if then they are going to not have somewhere to go. And we helped start opportunities and conversations between institutions and industry in a way that I think is truly meaningful, and what gets at the needs of specific communities, whether it's a big community like Surrey or it's a small community up in the north or in rural communities. And I think those conversations are so critical to making sure that we're preparing students for what the jobs of tomorrow are, because as industry, you are the knowledge keepers of where you see your industries going and what kind of gaps you're seeing when students are coming out looking at jobs and saying, well, we'd love to hire them, but they have a gap in whatever the specific area of the industry is.
Next.
I'm Don Carlos. My question is, you mentioned that 250 billion circulation in British Columbia. My question is, how much or how many $1 billion is circulating in Surrey and White Rock, and how can we more improve that development?
For the trades investment, sorry, or in general?
In general, and bit.
Well, in general, I can talk about the billions of dollars of investment that our government's been able to bring to Surrey since we formed government. Over $12 billion of investment has come to our city, whether you're looking at the SkyTrain, the medical school, the new renal dialysis center, the new hospital that's coming. The investment that's come to Surrey under our government, I will say, is bar none. This is something that my colleagues here sitting with me and many of those that were before us have really turned that eye to say, Surrey is growing, Surrey has significant needs, and we need to make sure we're making those investments south of the Fraser, and I'm very proud of those investments. When it comes to the skilled trades, so how the allocation, so this year, every Skilled Trades BC's budget is $107 million, and we were able to double that by the third year. So there's an additional $54 million in skilled trades funding that's went out this year. And of that, our local Kwantlen was one of them that was able to get $1.6 million to add an additional 460 trades training seats in this year. And really where that funding went out in that first year was institutions came and said, these are the needs we have. If tomorrow you gave us this much money, we could reduce wait lists by this much. We could increase capacity by this much. And that's where that money went. As we get into our second and third year of that funding, we will be able to help expand those programs while also focusing on how do we get more women into the trades? How do we get more racialized, Indigenous, disenfranchised groups that might not have seen the trades for themselves? How do we make sure they are having equal opportunity? And I think that's something that's very beneficial for Surrey, given the diverse population that we have living in our communities. So very excited for that, and we'll continue to make sure that Surrey continues to be seen on where it should, which is as a world-class city across not only our province but our country as well.
Hi, Minister. I'm a big fan, as I've said this before. I am Supneet from East Community College. We are the trades training institution. We don't teach anything else. My question to your ministry is, out of the $241 million, what portion will be assigned to a private institution? Because so far in the last 20 years, we have taught over 10,000 apprentices who went through, we are a skilled trades BC designated, so they've gone through apprenticeship training, getting to their Red Seal mark, but the funding for private institutions have been zero so far.
Thank you. So as I said, with this first year of funding, the additional $54 million that went out, it went to our public post-secondary institutions as well as union trainers in this year. And why that happened is for a number of reasons, but a big thing is the gaps that we've seen in the funding that public post-secondaries have received in this area for over 20 years. And I think it's important to recognize that there is a real need to ensure that we are having collaboration between our public sector and our private sector. There are many programs that our public sectors don't have the capacity to deliver right now, and we see that when we look at our HCAP programs, our ECE training. There is a great relationship that for time again, that privates play a great role in this system. Right now, as we look at our sector, though, and we're seeing the significant financial challenges that our public post-secondaries are facing, and their debts are our debts as a government, that crucial lens to make sure that we're supporting what our publics are doing is very different in that sense. But so in this first year, there isn't any funding that's gone to privates on that. There's, in the second and third years, as I said, we will open up to see where are the needs and how do we support those. But it will be really important to make sure that we continue to see where are the needs, who can help fulfill them, how can we support our publics to do so, and if not, how do we make sure that all institutions as a sector that we're working together to fill the needs that we see in the job market.
Thank you. When is the second year starting?
So this, no second questions, I can see that.
I'll allow it.
Second year, so the first year of funding was just announced for this budget in April, and it'll be next year.
So April of 2027.
Yes, correct.
I have to.
Keep our fingers crossed.
Okay, Zunit, off you go. Thank you, my
you.
friend. Jamie, you're up.
Thank you. James Stewart, I am also a lawyer in this community. Perhaps more importantly, I was on the SFU Surrey Community Advisory Council for 14 years, and I'm Chair Emeritus of the Board of Governors, so I have a connection. I am not speaking on behalf of my friends at SFU today. A number of times it's been mentioned today about the importance of skilled trades, et cetera. And it brings to mind something that is happening in real time right now, which is that enormous number of people in skilled trades are finding themselves out of work, in the construction industry in particular. And it brings to me to mind, or emphasizes that we all benefit from, or are victims of, government policy. So I would say, I'm curious as to what your thoughts are as relatively new into politics, as you were saying. What your experience is about how much care is given into determining policy and what the ramifications of that. You've also mentioned what happened when the federal government changed the immigration or the international student qualifications and what happened as a result of that. There's a policy change that has catastrophic effects on the post-secondary education sector with no apparent thought ahead of time about how that was going to be remedied. So not blaming you for what they did, but in your own world, how much discussion happens about policy when you decide we're going to change housing? What about all the people who will be thrown out of work as a result of that, for instance? And I'll let you ruminate on that, and thank you.
Yes, thank you. Well, policy across all areas of government, I think there's a lot of conversation about it, but I think one thing when I talk about our ministry, something that was really important as we went into even the review of the sector and seeing what the impacts of international student cuts were, but also just financial times impacting it, that what is our long-term plan? And that is why with this review, it wasn't about a short-term, how do we make sure everyone's kind of okay, and how do we find another income stream to kind of fill that gap. My number one thing in this is how do we make sure that we're looking at this sector holistically to make sure that 10, 15, 20 years, but also generations out, we are being able to meet the needs of students there, but we are looking in advance, 5, 10, 15 years, at what those policy ramifications will be, but also what the needs will be. And I think that was a big outcome of this review that I want to see as a part of our sector, is that we are nimble, that we are able to respond to the needs of a changing sector and look at our labor market outlooks and see where we're going and get there before the crisis point exists. And the other thing is, I think the international student cuts was a big example, and what I've said to sector is what I don't want to see is us looking even, let's say for example, we're trying to gather federal dollars, which we are. There's a lot of investment in terms of maritime, aerospace that is coming here that we can benefit from, but we cannot fill one gap with another. We need to make sure that we are able to stand on our own 2 feet as a province, and that another government levels policy changes overnight that we don't control won't have such devastating impacts on us. So focus on that while looking at that long-term plan to make sure we are nimble and quick. And I say I am very fortunate in my ministry that I get to work with some of the smartest people in this sector across any ministry. You are the educators, you have that information, and working aligned with industry is how we need to make sure that we are not just planning to fix the issues of yesterday, but of well into the future. And I think another role in that is AI, and looking at where those impacts are going to be, and not making sure that we're making those changes now and not in 5, 10 years saying, oh, we've seen this whole sector experience loss because of AI and we weren't prepared for it.
Minister, I have one final question for you. We've seen layoffs at our post-secondary institutions. I know that you can't tell us the results of the review right now, although I mean, if you want to, we're open to it. What can you tell us? Are there particular structural challenges potentially in the funding model that needs to be addressed? What assurances can you give to folks in this room that, we're going to get the support that we need to make sure that this very important sector is here to stay and continues to grow?
Absolutely. So I won't, I can't tell you what's in it because the recommendations, we have to decide what we're going to do, but maybe next time, maybe next time. But I think the big thing that we can talk about when we look at the sector is how do we ensure that we are meeting the needs of students that are here and that are going to come tomorrow. We've seen a expansion of our post-secondary sector in a way, which rightfully so. We had a significant number of international students that were here. We developed programming to serve international students that are no longer here. And when you look at the federal government's policy, I'd say there's going to be a while before they would be coming back. So how are we delivering the programming that students here need? I think that is a big part of it, and that does have impacts, and I recognize that it's very challenging. These are not easy decisions that institutions are making, and communities are feeling the effects of that. We have to make sure we have the programming that we need for the students that are here. We are reducing duplications across, especially in areas where we are so fortunate to have many, many great institutions. How do we make sure the institutions are working together to deliver programming versus every institution needs to deliver the same degree program? And I think these are the kind of hard looks that we need to see. So in my mind, at the end of this is a post-secondary sector that is thriving for generations to come, recognizing that that is a key milestone in our economy, is training up the talent right here in BC, making sure that institutions are working together, that students, whether you live here, you live in rural or remote communities, you have access to education. And something else I'll say that I haven't said in this is I think often the question can be, you know, where do the humanities play a role in this? When we start to go into the skills trades and we go into this, where's their role? And I will say I think that's a stronger role today. They have a role to play today than ever in the past. In a time of AI, in a time of misinformation, in a time where there is such a changing landscape of information that individuals get, the ability to analytically think, the ability to decipher information, to know that is going to be key. That is actually what's going to keep us above and beyond what the AI robots can do. And I think I just want to give that reassurance that these are things that it's not just making decisions about the financial health, but how do we make decisions that will make our system better for students that are going to come in? And we will only be able to do that work with all of our partners in the sector, and knowing that we're taking steps forward, we're able to pivot where things aren't working, and that at the end of it, we have a sector that works cohesively together, serves our students, remains affordable and accessible for students across the province, and serve the needs of BC's labor market for decades to come.
Thank you. With that, can I get a round of applause for Minister Sunner? Now we get to just relax here, and I get to invite Dr. Amy Jean. Did I do it right, Jean? Okay, Associate Vice President, Academic Pro Tem at Kwantlen Polytechnic University, our co-presenting sponsor, to say a few words.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy John. As Joslyn said, I am the Associate Vice President Academic at Kwantlen Polytechnic University. And it is my great honor and pleasure to be here among people who are shaping the economic future of this community. And I know I am the last speaker of the event, which means I have this duty to make sure that it is short and concise. So please be with me for next 3 minutes. I'll make sure it is short. Yes. So first of all, Minister Sunner, thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us and sharing your wisdom and all the insights that you have shared with us today. This is such an important conversation that we are having today, and we truly appreciate your leadership, your engagement, your insights, and also your continued support. Thank you. So business today are navigating a tremendous challenge. As we all discussed today, there is global instability, tariffs, oil prices, rise of AI. These are all reshaping the industries faster than most of us can follow up with. And in times like this, we have a choice to make. Either we work alone or work with each other. And as a scientist, I was always taught that 1 + 1 is actually not 2, but it's actually greater than the sum of 2. And when the right partners get together, we create synergistic outcomes neither could achieve alone. And that's exactly how we see the role of education at KPU. We believe education is one of the most powerful economic driver of this community, and we want to build that future with you. For us, it starts with relevance. Workplace is changing quickly, and the employer needs are evolving faster than ever, as Minister Sunner has explained. One of the great examples of this at KPU is that we recently relaunched our 1-year HR management post-baccalaureate program, and the updates reflects KPU's flexibility to respond quickly and thoughtfully to industry needs. We want our employers to know that when you hire a KPU graduate, you're hiring someone who is prepared to do the job that exists today, not that existed several years ago. That same thinking extends across our programmings as well. Work-integrated learning is now embedded throughout our programming, giving students opportunities for co-ops, practicum, internships, and hands-on learning experiences. And as an employer, that means access to graduates with practical experience, job-ready competencies, and a skilled worker from day one. And that is a real return on investment for everyone involved. Also, one of the fastest growing needs that we continue to hear from employers is around upskilling and lifelong learning opportunities. Whether it's AI in the workplace, business funding applications, or social media marketing, KPU is developing flexible training options and micro-credentials to support today's workforce. Also, for experienced employees who wants to return for upgrading their credentials, KPU offers prior learning assessment and recognition process that can fast-track their journey. And that means their life experiences and work experiences can be now converted into university credits. That will allow students to focus only on the learning they actually need. We also partner directly with industries to create customized training solutions. One of the examples, as Minister Sunner mentioned earlier, is that KPU worked with a major construction company to develop a construction craft worker program, and that supports training for employees building the new Surrey hospital that is adjacent to our Cloverdale campus. We've also partnered with healthcare authorities to ensure that workforce needs are met in our local area, while our Applied Genomics Center is supporting BC's agri-food, agri-tech sector as Canada's first technology access center focusing on agriculture and genomics. So at KPU, we are deeply rooted in this community of Surrey, and we are ready to be your workforce development partner. Our motto, as you probably have seen around Surrey buses and SkyTrain stations, is where thought meets action. And we have many colleagues right here, right in front of me. So I encourage you to come and connect with us, and let's turn today's conversations into meaningful action. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jeanne. I'm so proud of the post-secondary environment that we have in British Columbia. Let's get another round of applause for how awesome all of you are. I like bragging rights. I like to go places and tell people how great it is here, so you make that easy. I'd like to thank our sponsors once again, our presenting sponsors, Invest Vancouver and Kwantlen Polytechnic University. A round of applause for those guys. Our community sponsors, Western Community College, sorry. There we go. And our pillar partners, Focus College and the Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance Plan by SNF Group Benefits. And just before you go, I want to tell you about some events we have coming up, because as you can tell, we like to have a good time, even when discussing interesting and challenging topics, right? June 4th is our golf tournament, and we have wonderful prizes, and the silent auction is open, so please check them out. Rona in her office is getting drowned by all the gifts, right, Rona? So there's some really good stuff there you'll want to bid on. June 10th is our networking at night with Golf Canada. June 11th is our new members breakfast. We always have a lot of fun there. June 17th is our networking at noon at Casa Supply. On the 18th is the White Rock City address with Mayor Megan Knight. And on the 22nd is our AGM, where we will induct our new board chair. And of course, we have our summer sizzles, great networking opportunities for everyone. So if you have any questions, please talk to my staff. And speaking of them, can I get a round of applause for my amazing team? We cannot do anything without teamwork, so thank you to my team. If you have any questions, again, the team, me, or our website, SWRBOT.com. Thanks, everyone. Make it a great business day and have a wonderful weekend.